Have you ever felt that no matter how much you chase something, it always slips through your fingers? That the harder you try to force things to happen, the further they seem to drift away? Maybe you've wondered if the problem is you, if you're doing something wrong, if you just need to push harder to achieve what you want. But what if I told you there's another way to look at it? A deeper, quieter perspective, one more in tune with your true path. Carl Jung, one of the greatest explorers of the human soul, believed that what is truly meant for you doesn't need to be forced. He spoke of a natural flow, a synchronicity that links you to the people, events, and roads that genuinely belong to your journey. When you begin to align with who you really are, what's meant for you finds you, inevitably. It's a difficult idea to accept in a world that teaches us early on that everything must be earned through effort, hustle, and perseverance. That if you don't fight for it, someone else will take your place. That if you don't run, you'll fall behind. But this mindset of constant battle disconnects us from something much more subtle: the timing of life, the rhythm of the soul, the wisdom of the unseen. Jung taught that the soul has its own purpose, and it attracts what it needs for growth, not what the ego wants, not what seems ideal on the surface, but what truly serves your transformation. And that's why what you desire most sometimes doesn't happen. Not because you failed, but because the time hasn't come, or because deep down, it isn't what your soul truly needs. This understanding changes everything. It transforms how you perceive losses, silences, and life's rejections. It shifts your relationship with time, with anxiety, and with control. Because once you begin to trust in that flow, not as resignation, but as a courageous act of spiritual faith, something within you softens. The urge to prove, to chase, to conquer at any cost starts to fade. And in its place, a quiet confidence begins to grow. The trust that yes, what's truly yours is on its way. And while you wait, you can live. You can evolve. You can become the version of yourself who is ready to receive what's already heading your way. Destiny doesn't miss its target. It only waits for the right moment. But the idea that everything meant for you will find you doesn't mean you should sit back and wait for miracles to arrive wrapped in gold. What Jung suggests is something more delicate, more powerful, a path of self-awareness. Because in order for something to truly find us, we must be in the right place. And that place isn't a location on a map. It's an internal state. When you're disconnected from your true self, you end up chasing distorted versions of love, success, and recognition. You attract relationships that don't reflect who you are. You cling to projects that drain your soul. And all of this creates a loop of frustration that makes you believe life is against you. But in truth, it's just a reflection of your own disconnection. Because what's meant for you can only find you when you are truly being yourself. That's why everything begins to shift when you stop trying to fit into spaces that were never yours. When you stop chasing people who never saw you, stop pleasing those who will never accept you, stop following paths drawn by others' expectations. The moment you begin to honor your essence, even if you don't know exactly where it will lead, life starts to respond differently. Jung called this the process of individuation, the journey inward toward your truth. It's the moment you begin to listen to yourself instead of the world. And this inner movement, though silent, has a powerful impact on your choices, your relationships, your presence. You stop being someone lost trying to fit in and become someone whole, finally being found. At that point, synchronicities become more frequent. People show up out of nowhere. Opportunities arise when you least expect them. Locked doors open effortlessly. And it's not magic. It's alignment. It's the universe saying, now you're ready. Now you can receive. And the most beautiful part? In that state of connection, you no longer feel the desperate urgency you once did. You understand that everything has its time, that waiting is part of the journey, that the path doesn't need to be rushed, and it's there, precisely there, that what's meant for you finally finds you. Not because you forced it, but because you became someone who lives in peace with what hasn't yet arrived. And that inner peace is the surest sign that the encounter is near. But what exactly is meant for you? That question carries more depth than it seems, because not everything you deeply want truly belongs to you. Sometimes, what you think you want comes from your ego, from a need to prove something, to fill a void, or to heal an old wound. And that's when we confuse what makes sense with what we simply miss. Jung used to say that the soul carries a wisdom the ego can't comprehend. And that's exactly why many of our deepest desires don't come true. Not because we're incapable, but because we're not yet the person we need to be in order to live those experiences without losing ourselves. Life doesn't deny us anything. It simply postpones what we're not ready to handle. And readiness isn't about perfection. It's about inner maturity. It's the courage to say no to what hurts, even when it's tempting. It's the honesty to admit that some dreams were just walls painted to look like the sky. And it's in this very process of letting go that true transformation begins. Because when you release what was never meant for you, you make room for what is. It might come in the form of a new relationship, a new job, a change of environment, or even a rediscovery of something you already had but never truly appreciated. Often, what arrives in that moment doesn't have the dazzling shine of what the ego wanted, but it brings peace, harmony, and a quiet resonance. It's like no longer swimming against the current, but finally letting yourself be carried by the right waters. This doesn't mean a life without effort, but a life with presence, with awareness. It means knowing when to stop forcing, when to release, when to trust. And that changes everything. Because when you keep pushing at doors that won't open, you're telling the universe that you don't trust its timing, that you don't believe something better is waiting, that you'd rather cling to the little, the shallow, and the painful. But when you let go, with faith and confidence, you're saying, I deserve more. And that single act of surrender changes your entire frequency. It changes the energy you radiate, the responses you receive from life, and slowly, what's meant for you begins to draw near, quietly, without chaos, without desperation. Because what's real doesn't arrive with noise. It arrives because it recognizes a home in you. And that home only exists when you stop being who the world told you to be and start becoming who you were born to be. There comes a moment when you realize you don't need to chase anymore, not out of pride or bitterness, but out of wisdom. You understand that what runs from you was never yours, and what stays, even through chaos, uncertainty, and silence, is something worth nurturing. Carl Jung viewed the human being as a symbolic field, where nothing is random and everything holds meaning. When you keep clinging to something that clearly resists you, you're not just wasting energy, you're disconnecting from your essence. Because what's truly meant for you doesn't require chasing, it requires presence, awareness, and internal alignment. This completely transforms how you see endings, rejections, silence, and loss. You stop interpreting them as failures and start seeing them as redirections. And it's within these redirections that the answers you've been searching for often lie. Sometimes, what you thought was the center of your world was actually a detour, a lesson to teach you how to say no, to know yourself more deeply, to define your true desires and limits. It's hard to see that while the pain is still fresh. But over time, and especially with self-awareness, you begin to understand. What didn't accept you actually set you free. What didn't happen didn't fail you. It protected you. Because when you align with your truest self, anything that's not in harmony with that truth naturally begins to fall away. And that's not punishment. It's refinement. It's clarity. It's the beginning of a new way of being, where you no longer need to beg for love, attention, or presence, because what's truly yours is already on its way, and it won't pass you by. It will recognize you as part of the same journey. But for that to happen, you must stop hiding behind the roles and masks you created to be accepted. The love meant for you, the life that belongs to you, the destiny that awaits you, none of them recognize disguise. They only draw near when you choose, with courage, to live unfiltered, unarmored, unafraid of your own vulnerability. Because it is within vulnerability that authenticity lives, and it is through authenticity that the universe finds its way to you. Carl Jung believed the soul attracts exactly what it needs in order to evolve, and often what the soul needs is the very opposite of what the ego wants. So when you begin to lose people, situations, or opportunities, don't see it as punishment. See it as life-making space, clearing out what doesn't belong so you can be filled with what does. What's meant for you will find you, but first, you must find you. For Jung, destiny wasn't something external and fixed. It was an inner unfolding, a path of deep revelation. For Jung, destiny was something that begins to unfold the moment you stop running from yourself. In other words, what is truly meant for you cannot find you while you're still living a life built on others' expectations, while you're repeating patterns that aren't yours, trying to please, to fit in, to be accepted. What is real won't arrive at your sculpted, edited version. It comes when you begin to strip yourself emotionally, when you start honoring your contradictions, listening to your discomforts, and embracing what you truly feel. That's when the universe starts to respond, not because it changed, but because you changed how you show up in it. And then, what once seemed impossible, unreachable, or too far away starts to flow naturally, as if it had always been there, just waiting for your permission. That permission is the key, because the moment you decide, you'll no longer beg for attention, no longer persist where there is no reciprocity, no longer shrink to fit into the small space someone offers. You create a new energy field around you. A field where only what matches your truth can enter. And this shift has almost a magical power. You start realizing you don't need to chase, convince, or prove anything to anyone. The connections that matter begin to form naturally. The opportunities that align with your path come without struggle. Doors open, not because you begged, but because you aligned. Jung called this synchronicity, those meaningful coincidences that defy logic but carry deep personal significance. When you start living from your essence, the world responds with signs. And though those signs may be subtle, they act like silent compasses, guiding you to where you need to go. So don't despair if something you deeply wanted didn't happen. Don't believe you wasted your time on someone who didn't stay, or that what you gave to those who couldn't receive was in vain. All of it was part of your path. Every absence taught you presence. Every rejection taught you self-worth. Every silence taught you how to hear yourself. And it's precisely this learning that prepares the ground for what is truly yours. Because when you stop insisting on locked doors, others open, on their own. And those are the doors you're meant to walk through. Not with fear, but with courage. Not with doubt, but with trust. Because what is meant for you, and here lies the beauty, never demands desperate effort. It only demands truth. And once you choose your truth, all that belongs to you begins to recognize you in return. The great challenge, however, is trusting this process when everything around you feels still. It's hard to believe something greater is taking shape when you're surrounded by silence, waiting, and the sense that nothing is happening. But silence, too, is part of the unfolding. It's in the silence that you learn to hear yourself, to reconnect with what you truly want, and to recognize what you no longer do. The universe doesn't move by the pace of your mind. It moves by the rhythm of the soul's growth. And often, that timing asks you to step away from distractions, to detox from superficial connections, and to find meaning in the space between life chapters. Jung said that every transformation begins with a descent, a journey inward to the unconscious, where you confront your shadows, heal old wounds, and reclaim forgotten pieces of yourself. This inner journey might look like loneliness, but in truth, it's preparation. And during this silent preparation, life tends to test you. People who no longer match your new frequency may reappear. Old situations might try to pull you back. The mind, clinging to familiar defenses, may try to convince you that changing was a mistake. And that's the turning point, the critical moment. You must hold on to your truth, even when it hasn't yet produced visible results. You must stay loyal to yourself, even when the temptation to return to the familiar seems easier. That's the real test. And it's through this faith in your own transformation that the life meant for you finally begins to take shape. Silently, slowly, but inevitably. It is an act of faith, not in the religious sense, but in a deeper spiritual sense. Faith in your own journey. Faith that what lies ahead is greater than what was left behind. And when you maintain this inner integrity, something shifts around you. Different people start to appear. More aligned opportunities begin to emerge. And you feel, without needing proof, that you're getting closer to what you've always been searching for. And perhaps the most beautiful part of it all is realizing that what is meant for you doesn't come to complete you. It comes to reveal you. It's not about filling a void, but about sharing your wholeness. The connections that truly transform are not the ones that save you, but the ones that mirror you. They reflect how much you've grown, how deeply you've healed, how ready you are to live with true depth. The kind of love that arrives in this stage of life isn't based on expectations, it's based on presence. It's no longer about need, but about conscious choice. And all of this becomes possible because you went through the earlier process. So yes, what is meant for you will find you, but not because you chased it, and not because you fought for it desperately. It will find you because you stood firm where it mattered most, within yourself. Destiny, in this case, is not some external path carved out in advance. It is the natural result of who you've become. And when what is truly yours finally finds you, there are no doubts, no confusion, no need to prove or to beg. There is only a deep inner stillness that confirms it, a peace that settles inside you, even in the midst of the world's chaos. Jung believed that the unconscious guides us toward encounters that reveal our truest self. And when those encounters happen, you don't just recognize the other person, you recognize yourself. That doesn't mean it will be easy or free from challenges, but there will be a silent alignment between what you feel and what you are experiencing. It's as if every piece finally falls into place. And in that alignment, there's no need for masks. You can be who you truly are, without defenses, without strategies, without the constant fear of rejection, because the true encounter happens between souls that have seen each other before, even if they don't remember it consciously. This kind of experience redefines what we understand as love, success, purpose, and fulfillment. We begin to see that it's not just about achieving what we desire, but about attracting what is aligned with our new state of consciousness. Life, in that sense, ceases to be a desperate race for answers and becomes a dance with the unknown. You begin to trust the flow more than the control. You learn to find beauty in the process, not just in the outcome. And you finally understand that everything that once resisted arriving was simply waiting for the right moment, the moment when you would be ready to receive. This includes people, opportunities, life changes, inner healing, and even dreams that once felt impossible. All of it begins to align when you stop chasing and start walking with purpose. That is the true power of understanding that what is meant for you will find you. Not because you sat back and waited for life to hand it to you, but because you became someone who no longer needs to chase what's already on its way. It's about walking with awareness, choosing with clarity, and becoming someone who lives in harmony with what they truly desire. Jung once said that life isn't about finding meaning, but about living it. And to live with meaning is exactly that, aligning your actions with the truth of your being. When this alignment happens, the external world begins to respond with more coherence. What once seemed unlikely starts to feel inevitable. What used to cause anxiety now brings peace. Because you finally understand that what is meant for you isn't lost. It isn't far away and it's not delayed. It's simply waiting for the moment when you are whole enough to live it with depth, presence, and maturity. The deepest truth of this journey is that what is truly yours often doesn't find you when you're searching. It finds you when you're being. When you stop trying to prove your worth to the world. When you release control. When you start living with authenticity. That's when everything begins to align in a way that feels almost magical. Not because life has suddenly changed, but because you have. And this internal change echoes through everything around you. People who never noticed you suddenly recognize your presence. Locked doors begin to open. What once felt out of reach moves closer. Because the universe doesn't respond to what you say you want. It responds to who you are. That's why forcing outcomes, chasing what resists, or insisting on closed doors becomes so exhausting. Deep down, you know that what's truly meant for you doesn't require struggle. It requires presence. It requires integrity. It requires a heart that's ready to receive. Carl Jung believed that destiny isn't just something that happens to us. It's also something we create by living in harmony with our unconscious. When you begin to respect your boundaries, heal your wounds, and listen to your inner signals, you're actually shaping the path through which destiny can find you. Every conscious choice, every no said at the right time, every yes that comes from the heart, each one builds the bridge between you and what's already on its way to you. The process may feel slow, even painful at times, because it often requires letting go of who you were in order to become who you're meant to be. But it's exactly in that in-between space, in the void between the old and the new, that the true miracle happens. The miracle of allowing yourself to be found by everything that resonates with your most authentic essence. And when that happens, it doesn't feel like a conquest. It feels like a homecoming. As if deep down, everything had already been written, simply waiting for you to remember. So if today you're feeling lost, impatient, thinking life is late, or that your dreams have slipped away, breathe, trust, recalibrate your inner compass. Because believe this, what is meant for you is not lost. It doesn't expire. It never forgets you. It's only waiting for you to be ready, for you to be whole, for you to be available. Not just with open hands, but with an open soul. And when that moment comes, there is no effort, no anxiety, no rush. Only a deep silence that whispers, it has arrived. And when it arrives, you know, because everything within you says yes. And that yes doesn't come from the mind, or from fear, or from longing. It comes from the soul. And the soul never gets it wrong.